Okay, the next new concept that we need to talk about here is absolute value. And absolute value is the distance from zero. That's all it is. So anytime you see something that's asking for absolute value, go back to the core definition. Now, a lot of times I see students go, oh, well, whenever it's absolute value, it's always positive. Well, sort of. But it's very bad to get into the habit of kind of making that generalization. Your answer will not always be positive. Depends on what else you're doing to it. So you want to be careful about that. Always go back to the definition. Absolute value is the distance from zero. So for instance, if I were to draw out a number line, and I had 0 here, and let's say these are in increments of 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20 would be over here. If I want to know what is the absolute value of 20, I'm asking you how many units is 20 from 0? Well, it would be 20 units, wouldn't it? On the other side of 0, we have the same sort of thing happening. Let's do these by 5s again. 5, 10, 15, 20. So this would be negative 20. I'll write that a little bit neater. Now, if I ask you for the absolute value of negative 20, I'm saying what is the distance between negative 20 and 0? And again, that would be 20 units. When we see absolute value, it'll be denoted by these straight bars here around this number. This literally says how far from 0 is 5. So we could think about that on our number line. And 5 is 5 units away from 0. Now, over here we have, again, this is the absolute value of negative 5. So it's literally asking me, how far away from 0 is negative 5? Well, negative 5 is 5 units away from 0. So this is why students kind of get into the idea of saying, oh, well, our answer is always positive. Oh, be careful about that, because then you run into something that looks like this. This says the opposite of the absolute value of negative 5. Or you could think about it as saying negative absolute value of negative 5. Well, absolute value bars work very, very much like grouping symbols do. We have to do this part of it first and then work our way out. So if I look at just the absolute value of negative 5, that says how far from 0 is negative 5? Well, that would be 5 units. But then we have to bring down our negative and say, okay, now they're asking us for the opposite of that, or the negative of that, which would be negative 5. Let's try another one. This says the absolute value of 8 minus 2. Now, so this says how far from 0 is 8 minus 2. Well, we need to do what's inside here first before we can really finish this out. That's why I said that absolute value bars kind of act like grouping symbols, like parentheses and brackets and braces. Let's do what's inside here first. This 8 minus 2 would be a 6, and I still have the absolute value bars. So now this says how far from 0 is 6, and that would be 6 units. Now this problem over here says the opposite, or the negative, of the absolute value of 8 minus 2. So again, we have to work according to order of operations, one thing at a time. So 8 minus 2 would be 6, but we've not taken the absolute value yet, and we still have this minus on the outside. Now we do the absolute value. That comes next. It's like a grouping symbol. So how far from 0 is 6? That would be 6 units. But then we still have that negative on the outside. So this says the opposite, or the negative, of 6, which is negative 6.